let me know what couple of ideas, maybe what your partner said or what you said.
So what we came up with was how often to follow up with potential clients, and also how to follow up with them.
Cool. Okay. Great questions. What about you guys? Anything that you want to share? Hey, cool. Everybody wants to know the how. Yes. Cool. So questions for what types of questions to ask a potential buyer to see where they are in the process, to figure out how to get them pre-qualified? Is that what I'm hearing? Got it. To see if they're actually pre-qualified to buy a home, to see if their debt to income ratio is okay, that they make enough money to qualify for a home right now. Yep. Yep. Great questions. I love it. That's really, really good. And actually, that's part of what we're going to go over. So keep these questions that you had. We're not going to answer them all right now, but keep them in mind. And as we go throughout this this topic today, see if they're answered. And if they're not, at the end of the class, we will come back and see what kind of answers we have for them. So turn to the lead follow-up page in your participant guide. If you have the participant guide, doesn't look like anybody does. How do we define a lead? Let's understand what an actual lead, what a lead is. What's that? Oh, really? Okay. Well, all my stuff talked. Got it. So nobody has physical copies. Makes sense. Okay. Well, I won't ask for you to pull out your participant guide again. Through the lesson that I read last night and this morning, when as I was rereading it, it talks about the participant guide. I asked them to open to this page. And all right. So what's the lead? Somebody tell me. How do we define it?
Lead is somebody you haven't talked to yet.
Okay. So it's what?
You don't have a relationship.
No relationship. Haven't talked to them. What else? Okay. Might be interested in working with you. Potential client. I love it. And you have to have some sort of contact information for them, right? Maybe they've signed up for something online, or maybe they were referred to you, whatever. Referral is a little different than, I mean, there are all types of leads. There's a referral lead. You can find leads online. Somebody comes to an open house. That's kind of a lead. You have talked to them, but you've got, or maybe you didn't because it was a busy open house. They wrote down their info and you didn't get a chance to connect. So, it's somebody that's shown, I think, and remind me your name, was it Courtney? Somebody that's shown interest in the service you provide. You have their contact information and you're yet to engage in a two-way conversation. So, and then obviously the goal of lead follow-up is to get into a two-way conversation with those folks. Does lead follow-up only apply to leads? Well, I'll rephrase it. Does follow-up only apply to leads?
Yeah.
Nope. Who else? Everybody in your database. Every single person you have contact for in your database. Are the people you've put in your database only in your real estate database? Are you the only real estate agent they know?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
But doubtful.
Very doubtful. I agree. Not likely, right? Likely they know other real estate agents. Likely somebody else along the way will put them in their database. So how important is it that we're constantly on their mind and finding ways to reach out and have touch points? All right. Use my backwards remote. So take a look at this and let me know what comes to mind when you look at these waves? What if I were to give you somebody, or you had a lead that was right here on this? Would you consider that a hot lead or a good lead or cold lead, or what do you think?
Yeah.
Really good lead, right? They're super high on that wave. They're getting ready. You know, and that little, I don't know if you can't see it where you're sitting, that's 7 to 10 years, the blue line. Maybe I'm the only one with bad eyesight that won't wear glasses. But 7 to 10 years, I think I heard other statistics that said it's actually like 5 to 7 years now. So it could be even less. So with those, we're probably going to be really, really, really good, right? At following up, at staying in touch, staying top of mind. What about somebody that's, I don't know, either here or maybe down here? How do we treat them?
A little less important, a little less on the priority, a little.
And are they less important, even though we might?
But
Treat them the same.
Yeah, you may not follow up quite as often, right? But yeah, you should be treating them right. I love it. Follow up with different questions, sure. And what types of questions might you ask them? I love it. Yep. Find ways to provide value and stay relevant. Yep. No, I agree 100%. Let's go to the next slide here. So think of the leads that enter your database through lead generation as your possible business. Lead follow-up helps turn the leads from possible business into probable business, with the end goal, of course, being profitable business. The 2021 National Association of Realtors profile of home buyers and sellers details the opportunity that lead follow-up can provide to your business. They collected research that shows that when selecting an agent to choose, 73% of buyers only talk to one agent, and 82% of sellers only contacted one agent. Since the data shows that most buyers and sellers only talk to one agent before deciding to do business with them, what will you do to ensure that you are the one agent in their database? Or you're the one agent for everyone in your database. What do you guys think? Give them the most value? Love it. Yeah, I love it. Any other thoughts?
I think just being friendly and helpful to everyone we meet, so they can know that a realtor.
And bringing it up in conversation, casual conversation. I love that. Yeah, I agree. You had something for you.
Focus on the relationship too, and I love that. Like some real estate agents that I've met in this process of like feel like their relationships are very transactional, or it's a lot of focus on what do I get from this relationship. So what April was saying, or what Amy is saying, I focus on the relationship of like friends, for the sake of being friends, and then also like bringing value.
You guys, I agree 100% with what you guys said. Awesome.
Feel it, and it doesn't feel very good but when you have like a genuine person who wants to give you the best deal, like as an agent, we want people to get the best deal. We want to show them market analysis, and like that's the kind of person we all want, someone looking out for our best interests.
Yeah. So what kind of a duty is that? What would you call that duty? There's a definition for it. Fiduciary, yep. You really want somebody that's going to be a fiduciary. They'll even put your needs ahead of their own if somehow they're going to try to cut your commission or something, you know. Obviously, you can battle for that if it's in an agreement, which you always should have before you ever show a buyer any home. But yeah, they want to know that that's not what it's all about to you. They want to know that you're putting all of their priorities first. I agree. The concept of taking up space in people's minds through staying in close emotional proximity to them is called mind share. Have any of you guys ever seen the movie about all the social media networks, how they try to take up mind share? Every time you jump on Instagram or TikTok, if you log off quickly, then they try a different algorithm to figure out like if they can catch your attention more the next time. Like that's what they're buying is mind share. That's why people scroll for miles on, social media. That's what they're buying. They're doing an incredible job. But you want emotional mind share, or you want mind share with people, and emotional proximity is a result of engaging in touches with your database. So you'll have more of that emotional relationship with them. Do you guys know Jen Jorgensen? Yeah, she's fantastic. Just an awesome person and a great agent. And she does a ton of posting on social media. And she's had people come up to her and just be like, oh my gosh, I love this or this about you and this post. And she has no idea who they are. And then, them want to have her sell their house or go buy something. Oh, I've been thinking about doing this. And she's like, oh yeah, remind me your name. And they'll tell her, oh yeah, we haven't met, they'll say. But I follow you on social media. So she's got a ton of mind share with some people that follow her because she's constantly posting. Thinking back to the day you learned about lead generation, what touches are the strongest when it comes to relationship building? And what about the weakest? What do you guys think? Start with the strongest. What touches are the strongest?
Face to face.
Face to face. Remember that pyramid they probably showed you? Face to face is up at the top and phone calls right there. And it goes down from there, right? From emails or from texts and emails, cards and all that. And that's not the right order. I don't remember the exact order to drip campaigns, but they're all contacts. Meeting in person. Oh, I forgot this part was already in here. Meeting in person and a phone call are the touches that have the greatest impact on relationships you're building. Email and text are weaker, related to forming connections and bonds. While you will lead follow up using a variety of touches, it's important to keep in mind which ones will be most effective as you follow up. So what stood out to the most so far? We do the ahas. Any reason? Anybody know why we do these? There are those powerful insights, and you may recognize or hear something in class you've heard for the first time or thought about it before. It was like, oh yeah, I need to do that. That's one of the reasons we go through these ahas at the end of these sections. It makes it easier to reflect and then jot down notes, or maybe somebody caught something that you didn't catch. Anybody have any ahas for this? Go ahead.
Various reasons, like, don't want to write about the trip I just took, or write about how long the trip is. And the other it just feels, I just worry about not having. So I think I've been shying away from being genuine, but this is just a reminder of other like that. I don't feel like she's fake because she acts like her life's perfect and there's like, she doesn't say that. You know what I mean? She's not pretending like everything is perfect all the time. And we all she's just not sharing that then she cried about this later, like.
And sometimes she is. That's what I love about her stuff. She's really authentic, I feel like, in a lot of her stuff. She'll trip and have something dumb or like mismatched socks. She had a ton of views on. I was like, oh my gosh, that's funny, And I agree with you. So I've had a similar issue. You talked about it's maybe hard to post a lot on social media. I know that's not exactly this topic, but I've had a similar feeling posting because I thought, gosh, I don't want to stand on top of a desk and say, everyone, look at me, this is what I'm doing. But I find that it's more authentic when I get on and I'm really truly excited for somebody maybe that closed or something that happened, for them. So I tend to focus now more on, funny things and something that I'm genuinely happy about so that I'm authentic, and it's more about them and not about, me or what I'm doing. But people, they want to know. And it's so much easier to connect with lots of people if you are consistent in posting on social media too. It's just one of those things that I think we're all going to have to do, whether we love social media or not. Yeah, it's a great way to connect.
Like when people that I follow, I feel like I know them better.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not talking to them all the time, they might not know me any better because I'm not posting, but I know them better.
Yeah, so true. You feel like you know them a lot better. You have, yeah. Basically, you're saying that from what I understand, you're saying you have more of an emotional connection with them. You're like, holy cow, I know them. We're on a little bit deeper level just because they're posting. Yep, I agree. That's why I decided that I'm going to post more often, and so I have been. Today, we had, I don't know where you guys are all from, but we had 3 or 4 inches of snow. It was heavy in Eagle Mountain, and oh my goodness, it threw my morning off, and we're getting kids off to school, and I didn't have time to snow blow the whole driveway. We've got a fairly big driveway, and so my wife was getting out, so I took a quick video of her before I left and posted that. I was like, okay, there's something that's, just what our morning was like. All right, just like your intention. Wait a second, did I go to the right place? Yes. Just like your intention to be strategic with your lead generation efforts that you guys talked about in the previous class, we've got to be strategic too with our follow-ups. Being thoughtful about how you will follow up and leveraging the highest value touches that yield the greatest result will help you convert leads at a higher level. And you guys don't have the participant guide, so we're going to skip that part. Mindshare is gained through positioning yourself in front of your leads frequently. And we talked about some of those ways. What were they? What are some of those ways we can have mindshare with folks?
Posting on social media.
It's one, yep. Phone calls, what were those high ones? Phone calls, in person, texting, yep. Anybody know what the 19 to connect system is yet? Have you seen it before?
Yes.
Yep. And what are your thoughts on that? This system that we have, the 19 to connect, as you look at it, what are your first thoughts? Hesitations, or maybe excitement, or maybe I'm not sure about that yet. What do you think?
I think it works.
So those are the recommended systems you guys were introduced to. And they are the systems definitely for a reason. And we'll focus on those. It says the intent of these touches is to spread out over a calendar year, which equates to about 1 touch every 3 weeks. The goal of this communication is to establish a formal two-way relationship and two-way communication. Keep in mind that this is just a list and not a prescriptive order that you should complete them in. For example, 4 phone calls would be more effective if you spread them out once every quarter. What do you guys think? Any hesitations on this or any excitement about it? Any thoughts at all?
Well, that's my,
His birthday?
like that.
Uh-huh. That's awesome.
Thank you for.
So you were calling them after they sent you a text or a post? That's awesome. So you were the one making the connection a little bit deeper, even though they had reached out to you. That's awesome. And how did it make you feel when you got the birthday text?
For the birthday, yeah, you feel like coming, you can come and care about you anytime, like, genuine way to get back to them, right? From after that, and then catch up.
Awesome. So if I sent you a text or called you and said, hey, Erica, it's the most important day of the year. It's your birthday. Happy birthday. I hope it's a good one. What are you guys doing tonight?
Their birthday,
Yeah.
back to the catch up again.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that's a fantastic way. In fact, it's one of the ones that they have in here. When do you think a lead should be added to this 19 to Connect campaign? Okay.
It's like, oh, thank you for my birthday greeting, there's my email.
That's a thought. That's a thought. Any other thoughts on when you add them to this? Because we talked about a lead. And I think you may be talking about people you already have a connection with, right? You're in a two-way conversation. They're already calling you about your birthday, right? And the lead, if we're thinking about a lead in this, definition that KW gives that we haven't actually had a conversation yet. You're going to say something, Courtney? Yeah, we haven't already talked to them. That's our definition. We have their information. So those two things. So when do we add them to this 19 Connect? As soon as possible. Yeah, you're right. We want to do it as soon as possible with the thought in mind that they probably already have other agents that they're going to talk to along the way. They may go to another open house. You just got their info today at an open house and you're busy with the family you thought might buy it that turned out not to want it, but you missed 2 or 3 other families in there. So now you've got to hop on and try to connect right away. That's, and so I do love this 19 to Connect. It's not part of the KW script, but I actually think you need quite a few more touches with somebody right after, like an open house or somebody that's a hot lead. They've raised their hand and they said, hey, I'm interested in real estate or I want to buy, or maybe they were there because they want to sell their house. I would not call them once a quarter. I do differently for open houses. I would have 12 contacts in the first 4 or 5 days just to call, text, email, call, text, email, call, text, email. That's just me personally. If they've given you their information and said it's okay to contact them, I would give them way more touches right in the beginning, just because they're already out actively, physically looking. So, but others that may not, have a big interest in real estate, you met them at a party or whatever, they had a question or maybe somebody shared their contact info, and you find out they're not quite ready to move and buy something, then, you'll have fewer contacts. Let's go. As you get started in your real estate career, and some of you guys have already been doing this for a little bit, maybe. How long has everybody had their license, or does everybody have license or been in it for a minute?
I got my license in November, but I didn't really start until about February.
Nice.
I'm waiting on my license.
Cool. Still working on it. Good job. And
Like,
Amy,
that, like, last week.
good for you. And it's April? 2 months. Good for you. Courtney? Cool. And remind me your name? Sarah. Good for you. And Erica, how long for you? January. Okay, awesome. Okay, so we're all fairly new. Awesome.
We all are. We all
How long have you been in it?
I got my license in 2013.
Couple months.
Yep, yep. And I guess I'm supposed to share that, and I kind of didn't. Thank you for asking. I got my license in 2013. At the time, I was working for Highway Patrol, and I had done some other stuff. I was an environmental consultant for a little while, and it just wasn't a profession I wanted to be in. And so they were going to close down our office, but I had landed a big project with the church office building in Salt Lake with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And, and so I was working up there and doing environmental consulting, and they were doing asbestos abatement there in the church office building. And so I was the last employee for this company in Utah. And my manager called me and said, hey, you may need to, think about doing something else. I don't know if they're gonna keep Utah on the board. And it's like, okay, got it. And so I started looking at things and I thought, man, it'd be fun to be in the FBI or be a cop. And so I applied at the FBI, Secret Service, Highway Patrol, all these places. And again, the second interview with the FBI, and then I failed it. They flew me down to Phoenix and they asked me all these questions. And I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't have any law enforcement. And evidently my answers weren't good. And so they said, you can retake it again in so many months. And went through the third or fourth interviews with Secret Service. And then in the meanwhile, I landed at the job with Highway Patrol, was doing the testing and stuff. So I was with those guys for a while. And every day I had off, I was working overtime to try to make ends meet. And we already had our first house actually. And so that was good. But every day that I had off, I was working overtime because I could get time and a half. And I started out at $16.95 an hour there. Had a 4-year degree, speak Spanish, was a phlebotomist, and was on the SWAT team for a little while. And it was a fun experience. It was really, really fun. Got to do some cool things. But after a few years, my wife was like, I'm glad you could do this. Is there some other kind of part-time job you could do, like on your days off, so you're at home more? And I knew one of the guys was in real estate, and I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad back in the day and loved the idea of real estate, but didn't think I wanted to be an agent. Thought, oh, I'll be an investor one of these days. And so anyway, got my license and started doing it that first year. I made more money just part-time than at my full-time job, which was great. Same thing second year. In my third year, I had to have shoulder surgery, which at the time was a bummer. I had done one deal, I think up to that point, it was May. And so I was bummed and like, oh my gosh, and why did this happen? And I was just going to be transferred over to SBI to do investigations. And so I just picked up the phone and started calling people. It was like, knew I needed to figure things out with real estate. And so I had a whole bunch of business start happening once I picked up the phone. Imagine that. And so I think I did 18 more deals from that time the rest of the year. And when my lieutenant called me and said, hey, you got to come back in. Your PTO is out. And I said, no, I think I need a little bit more time. He's like, oh, you're going to have to make a decision. And I said, okay, I guess I'm done. So anyway, that was how my career started in real estate. So, some things to consider when following up with leads. Can somebody read through these questions for me?
What are my strengths? when
Hey,
working
thanks for
with
stepping up.
people? How can I adapt the touches? Is there another word behind that?
Touches to do before and after.
On the first
Oh,
question, where
yeah.
the thing is, how
Yeah.
can I adapt the touches?
Of 19 to connect.
Connect to represent me.
What are some reasons I might have for contacting you? What are some places before and after?
How am I using conversations to let the person know I'm in real estate? How to contact me and how to refer business? When is it best for me and my business to time block when you follow?
There, will you?
How much time should it take to adapt?
Cool. And you guys had some questions earlier about the how, right? That was pretty important to you, how to go about. So these are some questions to consider. And the rest of this little presentation is going to start allowing time for it. Let's talk about each one really quickly though, because we are going to make some calls and of course actually get into the doing today. So for each person, this might be different, your strengths and how you can adapt this 19. There's no actual exact set specific thing for the 19 touches, other than the part that you don't want to change is the four phone calls, the emails or newsletters, promotions, and then obviously an event. But those events might depending on if you're a pickleball player and you want to set something up, you have a bunch of friends that play pickleball, your real estate business may sponsor a tournament. It may be a movie event. I have a movie event tomorrow night in American Fork that I've invited a whole bunch of people to. Your newsletter may look different than Cameron's. His is pretty jazzed up and tons of info and super boring. So you may have something just right to the point and make it a one pager or something. Sorry, Cam, just kidding. No, I was saying you've kind of set the standard for everybody and how to do all this stuff. So what are the reasons that you guys might have for contacting somebody? Anybody think of a reason that you contact a lead? Somebody that you've never spoken to before, right? Never spoken to them. Easy for a referral. What do you say if it's a lead from a referral?
So-and-so referred me to you, and I just wanted to reach out and see how I can help you.
Yeah, that's perfect. So-and-so referred me, or, hey, this is Kammon and so-and-so I'm good friends with so-and-so, and yeah, just lead into the conversation that way. What about with an internet lead?
A little harder, but
Why?
because you don't have that in with them.
Well, so you may not have it in, but they may actually be the person that is more ready than the referral to buy real estate, right? Could that be? Could it be that they're like, I wish I knew somebody here. I've got to list my house. I'm moving for work. You call them because you just got the lead and you happen to be speedy on it before 5 other agents call them. And they're like, hey, I need to list my house. Great. Yeah, I don't care. Come over. I'll catch your name when you get here, right? That could be that person.
Yeah.
So I like the referral leads too. I love them. That's where I get most of my business. But an online lead or another way, what about for an open house lead? Yeah, they raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested in real estate. I don't know if they actually want to buy a house. I don't know if they're comparing to sell theirs. Maybe they want to do both. So what's a way to start that conversation?
So what I did is, I got a lead from an open house like a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working with them, but basically I had a sign-in sheet. It was a good open house. There was a sunny Saturday. There was probably 25 plus people that came through in the 2 to 3 hour window that we had. And then, he had filled out, all his contact info on my sign-in sheet. And so after the open, or before he left, I actually talked to him, and him and his family were looking for a home in Provo. And I've just used that as a stepping stone. And so the first thing I did was right after he left, I texted him all my information. And I just said, hey, Edgar, this is Dave Krantz. Thanks for coming to the open house. Really enjoyed seeing you. Let me know if I can help you. And then the next thing I did was try to find out more about like what's going on. So like, what is your cause for, so that was my next thing was like, what's your cause for moving? And so then he goes into, they're leasing a house with the option to buy it, but they have to let the landlord know by April 1st whether they're going to buy this house or whether they're going to find another one. So I said, okay. So then I set up a meeting with him, and I go see this house, and he asked me to tell him what the house looks like value-wise. And so I went and did a CMA with him, and basically sat down with him at the table and said, if you just want to buy this house and you need help buying this house, I can help you. I can take you from today to owning it, with these steps. Or do you want to go and see what's out there in the market? Because the house that he's living in is an expensive house. The guy wants $800,000 for it, but it has a legal accessory apartment in the basement. And that's uncommon in Provo to have a legal accessory apartment downstairs. So, do you want to buy an $800,000 house and have rental income? Maybe. Or you want to go and buy a $600,000 house and have that lower payment. And so those are the two options. And that's actually on my list of things to do today, is that I'm going to try and get another appointment with him this week because April 1st is a week away. What are you going to do? I mean, you know, how can I help you?
Is he month to month after the on April
And
1st?
So the reason that he's leasing it is because he's living in the upstairs, and the upstairs is not allowed to be a rental because of the neighborhood. But the guy's a lawyer that owns the house and wrote it up as a lease with an option to purchase. So the guy's not renting, he's leasing with the option to purchase.
So
Mm.
it's still technically, right?
You'd have to ask the.
He's trying to find a loophole
Yeah.
that maybe isn't really a loophole because technically he's leasing.
But
I
he
would think,
gets-
but I'm not an attorney, right? So,
He's the attorney.
Yep.
But that's like the kind of things that I see for myself, that you have to like, you know, this guy was at an open house 2 months ago or whenever it was, and now he's gonna be in the market a week from now. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have a lot more touches with this guy than just someone else in my phone.
I was talking to a newer agent the other morning, last Wednesday morning. He lives up in Salt Lake, and we were doing some service together. And anyway, we started chatting about his business, and I was asking him some questions. And he has this listing for 1.5 million up in Holiday. It's a great listing. Has a house that needs to be demolished, but it's a big property and all that. I said, well, man, that is awesome. How did you come across that listing? He said, well, kind of a buddy owns it, a lender, and he was kind of complaining to me that it was going to take 100,000 to bring this house like back up to code and all this, and it was kind of falling apart, and he was going to have to spend that kind of money to get it back up to code, but he would still have property and could still have renters in it. But that was the city that was going to force him to do that, I guess, because the house was falling apart, and it was like that, I guess, when the guy bought it, but there were some complaints about it, and so this guy was just perplexed on what he should do and was thinking about how to come up with 100 grand. Well, this new agent listened to him, and then he went back and he started looking up comps for the property right away. He drove by and saw it. He called the city. He did all this research. He said I said, how much time did you spend on this? He said, oh, maybe like 30 hours. I was like, wow, that's a ton of time. And before you even found out if he wanted to sell it, he was like, well, I invited him to lunch and said, hey, you told me about this challenge you were having. I have a couple of ideas. So he invited him to lunch and just said, hey, I know this thing has been a pain in your neck. Like, here are a couple ideas. I've actually looked up comparables, and he had all this information. And the guy was like, oh my gosh, we've actually been praying, like trying to figure out what to do with this thing. And this feels like an answer to our prayer. Yes, let's get this thing listed and up. And anyway, so I thought that was cool. I mean, you might not have everybody say, oh, you're an answer to a prayer, but all he did was see an issue that the guy had, right? That was a problem for him. He figured out a solution. He spent a ton of time doing it, but the guy could tell that he had obviously done his homework. He contacted the city and figured things out, asked about what it would cost to demolish it. He'd been in touch with contractors. And anyway, they figured out the price and included the price to demolish the house kind of in that price. And so he had this big solution for his buddy, and now his buddy won't get fined, doesn't have to come up with 100 grand. He'll make more money than he thought he would, can 1031 exchange it into some other property. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing for a guy that's really, really new. So there are going to be all kinds of people you can help. You just have to have their needs and their problems in mind and what you can do for them.
So I have a question. about
Uh-huh.
that. Was he able to do all of that without, to get, bids from contractors and all that? Did it make them on the-
So, well, yeah, so I don't know. I think he got estimates and sent aerial photos and that kind of thing that you can get from county records. You can get and you can tell them the size and square footage. They don't necessarily, somebody that's going to demolish a house doesn't necessarily need to walk through it and see what kind of tile they have before they demolish it, right? They can just say, it's this big, it's this size, here it is in this property. And so I don't know to what extent he had permission for. He did ask his friend if he could go by and see it and if he could be over there, and he said, yeah, absolutely, whatever you can come up with or whatever. So I think he had an idea that he was looking for solutions for him, but I think he had no idea that this guy would come up with all this legwork and spend all this time, right? And what if he didn't want to sell it? This guy's still going to be his client. He spent all that time and put him first, and he could tell that he cared about him and his problem and not just, hey, why don't we list it? Why don't we just get rid of that thing, before even knowing anything about it. He did some research and found out. Sure, he can suggest that at first, and there's nothing wrong with, well, have you considered, what are your thoughts about maybe trying to sell it instead of, spending the $100,000 to update? Have you considered that? And it's always okay to ask people what they're considering and thought process and open-ended questions, but just thought it was cool that he came up with that kind of a solution for him. All right. Where were we? Sorry, on a tangent there. How, this third one down, how am I using conversations to let the person know I'm in real estate, how to contact me and how to refer business? Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking to a friend, and letting them know I passed my test.
Nice.
How would I follow up? Because like a couple months every quarter, call them or?
Yeah, so these people aren't leads, right? They're contacts and they're different. So you would treat them a little bit different. There is a whole nother system for that. Do you know how many touches there are in the contacts? What they call it, a 36? Yeah, 36 touch plan. So I would put them right away in your 36 touch plan. And since most of you guys are new, you don't have to rely on your statistics when, you're talking to somebody. It's fine to tell them you just got your license. They're going to be excited. You should post about it and let everybody know. But when you're talking about sales and statistics, you don't downplay your strengths that, oh, this is my first, I haven't really done much yet. You're going to talk about the brokerage, right? The brokerage is your backing. Yeah, we sold over $1 billion last year. In fact, we have the last couple of years in real estate. We're part of the best team. And if there's something that I don't know, I can definitely get you the answer. We've got the top agents in the state at our brokerage, and you just rely on our team here.
Right. Meeting, I just had this it's hard to take in all this, and sometimes my brain is just going over I need to get. So I went on this pretty crazy hike, and it was really hard, but on the way down, I met these ladies, and they were older, I'm older, but older than me. And I was just friendly with them, and we just started to talk, and one lady was a retired doctor, and moved here from Indiana, and I said, oh, you just moved here, and I just said, I'm in real estate. Anyway, we literally became instant friends.
Cool.
We all shared our contact if they're on the mountain, and we've been texting back and forth, but to go hiking, because I'm an avid hiker, and it's some of the best ways to connect with people, and so that's kind of my avenue is finding, I genuinely wanted to get to know these women, and they genuinely wanted to get to know me. So I just feel like that was such a cool experience where I just said, hey, I'm in real estate, not anything more than that, but just they were anyway.
So cool. What a good experience.
Yeah.
What do you think makes it so that when somebody's interested in the same things that you are, I don't know, what do you think makes that connection so strong? Or that they'd be so much more willing to jump in and, oh yeah, let's get your info rather than.
That credibility factor. It's almost as good as a referral, but it's not quite there, because it's we like the same stuff, so I probably like you, it's
Yeah.
we know the same people, or we like the same stuff. I think they're about the same.
Yeah, it's easy for me to talk to somebody that likes football. I love football and I loved it growing up. I watch it. I coach my son's team, and it's just, man, I can sit down and chat with somebody, whether it's another agent or potential client, whoever, You find people that Sarah loves hiking. She found folks on the trail and they wanted to connect and share info, and oh, that's so awesome, They didn't take it like, oh, I'm trying to get your contact info because you're going to go in my database, which really is, you guys will never do, right? You're getting somebody's contact info because you care about them and you know that you're going to be able to help them. In fact, you know you're going to be able to help them more so than most any other agent, because you're going to care and you're going to put their needs first, even above your own. Any other thoughts on this page or questions about it? Have you guys thought about the best time to time block for lead follow-up? Did you talk about best time for lead generation, best times? What were they?
Yeah, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then 5 to
lead
6.
at 5 or at 10 probably.
Okay, so you're only gonna lead gen for 1 hour, 9 to
No,
10, or 10 to 11?
So those are the best times.
Best times,
Those are
okay.
the best times, yes.
Now, my question is for you guys. What times are you going to lead generate? Or what time do you already have in your calendar to lead gen? Anybody have in your calendar at all yet? You do, April? Nice, nice
I
job.
have a calendar. I don't-
Is it in your
I-
calendar yet?
That's not in my calendar.
So you're saying you're never gonna lead gen?
No.
Dave, come on. I'm just giving you a hard time. No, that's what they say. If it's not in your calendar, then what? It doesn't exist. That's why we put our vacations in our calendar at the beginning of the year. We put family time in our calendar, or I do in mine. My wife's not a calendar person, but I have to be if I'm gonna run a good business. And if she wants to know where I'm gonna be, or when I have clients, and when I'm gonna be out showing houses, or on a listing appointment. So I would challenge you guys to put it in your calendar, because if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist. And follow your calendar. Some people are really good at putting a whole bunch of stuff in their calendar, right? And then, oh yeah, it says lead gen, but I think I'm gonna find something else to do. I'll just keep myself busy.
Wow.
Just know that
You're-
just know that that's the number one thing. And the good agents really do jump in and they just start doing that stuff. So have you guys heard of Bold? It's one of the classes that KW does. I think it's $800 to take it. And we had this place filled when they had it here one time. And they ask you to do some uncomfortable things. Some of it's like jumping on a phone call. Everybody call so-and-so and do this. And they keep track of how many conversations you have that week. You keep track and you turn them in and you have to report it every Monday. And it goes on for 8 weeks. And so I had a little bit of an attitude, like the market was pretty good. And I was like, I'm doing business and I'm really good at this. I'm getting this done and I'm getting this deal. And I've got these 5 listings or whatever it was at the time, right? And so that was kind of the attitude for some of the folks in there. And then some of the folks were tearing it up and they were really like making their calls. And so then later on, I got invited to go to a different Bold class with all these mega agents. You had to be a $10 million producer and above. And I'm sure I was one of the lowest producers in there, right? I made it above 10 million, but not that much. It might have been 11 or something. And so I get in there kind of with the same attitude and thinking, yeah, we're just so busy, we're all doing a lot of business. Like we gotta get the deals done. That's where our effort needs to be, right? To close them. I don't want to just call people. I want to actually close deals. And yet when I got in this class, and sorry, a little off topic again, with all these mega agents, they were all like making their calls. Like everybody was turning in numbers. That first week, it was like, yeah, I only made 10 calls or whatever. And they were like, 30, 40 calls or whatever. They were all making their calls. I think it was 40 that you're required to while you're in that class. And some of them were even doing a Bold 100 where you contact 100 people in the day, like closing their office, letting their assistant or whoever take care of things. And I'm going to talk to 100 people today. And some of them,
That's awesome.
yeah,
I'm shocked at how much time it really does.
yeah, it does. Where do you feel like the most time is spent in those conversations?
I don't know, like.
You'll start tracking it and you'll figure out. Yep.
Takes a long time. But then even in the conversation, because it's not just all gonna be about real estate, like it's gonna be about our connection, at least the people who are in contact again at this point.
Yeah.
Past the leads, but,
Yep.
like just even making the calls with the people that are in my database,
Mm-hmm.
my friends. I was just surprised. Like I thought, I'll just spend an hour each day and do this. I have an hour for sure. But an hour is like 2 people. It really was to try and get a hold of 2 people. I mean, some days were more, but some
Yeah.
days like 2 people, and that's it. Just because everything, how long it took to get a hold of somebody and then just catching up. But I do feel like those are like solid.
Good conversations. That's awesome. Yeah, I think you'll realize, oh, sorry, go ahead. I think you'll realize as you kind of move forward with and continue doing these calls that you won't be able to spend as much time sometimes as we do. I got on with an old buddy the other day and he had just a really like, I don't know, kind of this real personal story about his best friend dying. And it was one where I'm not leaving that conversation, right? I'll take as much time as he needs. So we were on the phone like an hour And once in a while that'll happen, but he knows that I care about him more than, talking about real estate or whatever else. And I wanted to hear how he felt. And I shared some personal experiences with him. And I think our connection was definitely a lot deeper after that. And and yet I think in a lot of our just typical day-to-day conversations that you'll have with real estate, you're going to forward them. Have you heard about, they did forward in lead gen class,
Yeah.
family, occupation, recreation, dreams? That's such a good script. I had a coach that I was paying a month, $1,000 a month or whatever for Maps coach. And she taught me the forward class one day. And then the next week I forwarded her right as she called me. Leah, how is your family? How have you been? And oh, I'm really good. How are you? And that's awesome. Well, how's work been? How are all your clients? And we just kind of went right into the conversation. She had no idea I was forwarding her. And at the end of it, I said, well, how did the script work? And she's like, what script? I was like, the forward I just used. She was like, oh my gosh, Cam, good job. I had no idea. So it works. And I think once you kind of get into that, you'll start going in and measuring your conversations like, okay, I've got 5 minutes for this phone call, right? And then come up with a reason like, hey, sorry, I've got to get to an appointment. It was so good to catch up with you. Otherwise, you get on the phone with your friends and they have time, you have time, or you think you have time, you will spend half hour, 15 minutes talking to each of them. And if there's something really personal or something going on, they have real estate questions, that's what the phone call's for, right? Because you care about them. But if it's not, and it's just kind of, chit-chatting for a while, and you can turn it into an hour, I would say limit those conversations to 5 or 10 minutes at the most. And, oh, hey, I've got an appointment. And you do. Your appointment is to make the next phone call, or your appointment now is to do lead follow-up, whatever it is, let them know you have an appointment and you follow your calendar. And that'll help them understand, oh gosh, she's busy. Like she's working in real estate. And I find that when you get to family, occupation, recreation, dreams, when you ask them that second question or third question, after you ask them how they're doing, how's the family, you ask them about work, they always seem to ask about your work. It almost inevitably. If they don't, it depends on the conversation or what it's for. If I'm inviting them to a movie event or whatever, I don't mind asking for a referral. But if it's not, then I don't bring it up because I want them to know I care about them, and that's why I called, right? So, and we were just saying, April, as you stepped out, maybe 5 to 10 minutes max on phone calls as you start getting into this. And then you've got to like time yourself and let them know like, oh, hey, sorry, I've got to run. I've got another appointment. That appointment might be the next phone call, might be follow-up, whatever, but it'll be an easier way to get off the phone after you've spent all that time trying to get them on.
So will you tell, and this is only my second class, so
Yep.
that was family occupation.
Recreation and dreams. Recreation we think of as vacations with your family. Hey, what are your kids up to now? I saw your son was playing lacrosse and saw your picture Saturday. It looked really, looked really pretty with that mountain drop background or whatever it is. So ask about their family and themselves, how they're doing, the occupation, how's work, recreation, and then their dreams. And I often don't get to the dreams, but it's fun when you do. So what do you guys have planned for this year? Anything fun? And that might be the recreation vacation part, but I don't know. Long term, what's your goal? What are you hoping to do if they're talking to you about work? Ask them if they're loving it, so you can ask them about their dreams in a few different ways, I think. But yep, it's a good script. Yep. With what part?
Done these businesses where people just came to me, and I never really had to sell myself. I never, because my reputation did, and I had this business where, anyway, so I'm really, really struggling with like calling up people and selling. I had a friend in the past that she was involved in a lot of things, and it was very much a transactional thing. And it bothered me that people call me all the time for their new businesses they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing else there. It's just this sales pitch. And so now I'm like, how do I become this person that is like makes the phone calls and tries to sell me myself? Like, you have to begin. You really do. I don't have this reputation of selling all these homes and being a good agent for people. So my struggle is like getting as a new agent, I don't I really do struggle with the calls and the,
I'm so glad you brought it up. Any thoughts on what Sarah's saying? Any of you guys have those kind of thoughts that, gosh, I don't want to call and be the next person that's calling and asking and trying to sell my services?
I think when you don't expect something in return from the phone call, it makes it a lot better. I think if you don't expect to be their agent or get a listing or to get a buyer, I mean, that's great when that happens, but approach it from a genuine, stance. And so that's why you have to come up with your own script, and they don't just hand you a script and say, here's a script. Because if you're not authentic when you present or when you communicate, then you're going to come off as unauthentic. And so you just got to let go of those expectations and have a real conversation. You say, hey, look, what are you doing? And let them tell you. Because then after they tell you, they're going to ask you what you're doing. And then you can tell them, say, hey, I'm doing real estate. How's that going? You can tell them the truth. You say, hey, I'm struggling. I don't know how.
Nope, you can't. Sorry, I gotta say no to that.
Why not?
Because it's going great. You're not struggling. You're doing exactly what new agents need to do, you know? So I personally, I'm sorry to just disagree with you bluntly, but I'm gonna be blunt about this. I don't think you call people and let them know that you're struggling in real estate. I think that's not the conversation. I think you let them know that, gosh, things are good. I'm learning a ton of stuff and it's great to be a part of, the top brokerage in the state. I feel lucky I was able to get in with these guys because all the top agents are here and I'm learning a ton. Just did an open house last weekend. I've got some other stuff scheduled. I've got some appointments after this, but I wanted to see how you were doing. I hadn't heard from you in a little while and, so just my personal opinion.
Yeah, when I heard you say it back, it does come on. And I wasn't saying it to tell them you're struggling in real estate. Maybe tell them you're struggling with connecting or I don't know, just be truthful. It's more what I was saying. Not to say,
no, and that's the thing, like, I put it on social media, it's really good, I came, took a picture right here, and that was like, I wrote it down, I want everyone to know, and I got great feedback, and people are genuinely excited for me because
Cool.
I, I have a lot of really good connections. Like, I ran a preschool business forever, and like, I was like family to people, and so people are genuinely excited for me. And I've been through some really hard things, so people are like, love it when people shine after a hardship, and so I just don't ever want to come across like
I actually,
transactional.
I don't either.
Yeah.
My script is really like, after I like.
Hey, hold on, before you say it, can you role play it with her? You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, call her.
Great.
I assume you know who
Are
I
we
am.
on a phone call?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I mean, if I see you, sure. but-
So she's a contact, you guys know each other. All right, good.
Okay, she's calling.
Yeah, I haven't talked to you for a while. What are you up to?
Am I the agent or you?
No, I am.
Oh,
I'm gonna be me as I
Okay.
call that I make my normal
okay,
calls.
so I'm just
You're
somebody
just
not
Sarah.
in real estate.
Yeah, you can be.
Just run with it. You can be whatever you want.
Okay,
Just go with it.
I'm just doing great. Kids are, I've got teenagers, those are the things that
I
three
do.
teenagers. Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
I have a senior graduating this year. It's gonna be hard to see her
Sorry.
family.
I know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know,
for sure.
that's always so hard, 'cause you never know.
So what are you up to for work nowadays?
Um, you know, I'm doing this thing. It's really exciting. I'm just learning and I'm an entrepreneur. So it's, a lot of things I've got to figure out and yeah, it's just super exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And what are you doing for work?
So I actually just got my real estate license and I'm starting doing that. That's actually a lot of why I'm calling today. I'm calling just people that I'm friends with to see if it's okay if I put them in my database. My database is like where I have your name, your number, your address, email, make sure that I can connect with you in different ways. Since I'm new, I don't exactly know how I'm gonna use it. Maybe I'll be sending emails, maybe I'll send newsletters, I'm gonna try and do an event. But really, I'm just trying to put together a list. Is it okay if I add?
Yes. And
Okay.
with that,
Good job. Let's stop the role play there.
I just like, okay, so I have your name. I think I have your email address. Is this the one you want me to use? And I just like go through it and I put it right in.
But even then, that sounds a little pushy.
And do you,
And
do I
that's
have your
just
permission to be
practice.
totally honest with you guys when we do role play and all that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. So what part of it, you said that felt pushy, what part of it did you not like? Obviously, you guys aren't like,
Genuine conversation to be a friend. You know what I mean?
right.
Yeah, because I would have for sure asked you more about, when you said you're an entrepreneur, you're starting something new, I for sure would have asked you more about that.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
But-
Open-ended questions. Oh my gosh,
but
well, what are you
since I-
doing? What
since
got
I
you into
real
that?
estate, You tried not to say that. I was like, yeah,
I know,
do
I know.
that.
But my thing
And you kind of gave her the gimme, like, oh, what are you doing, right?
Okay, this is.
Hey, and guess what? It's okay to help each other out a little bit in role play as we're starting to do this and we're kind of new and we're working on all this stuff. Can we do another one? You and I? Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you for asking. Well, so I liked it and I thought, great reason to call, like, hey, just catching up with you. And I thought you did the 4 great and how's work? What are you doing? I thought, yeah, you go a little bit deeper when somebody is so excited. I know we're role playing, but that's the point, right? I'm so excited. I'm an entrepreneur. I get it. And yet with other people, you're going to have to, right? She'd have to come up with something. She's role playing too. So I think anytime they tell you they're so excited or something is happening in their life, like, oh my gosh, you're excited for them, right? Because you care about them. You're not calling because you want a lead or because you're looking for a deal. You're calling these people because you genuinely care about them. And the other stuff comes after. And it may come that phone call, it may not. So I think at the very end, jumping in and not being sure why you're even taking their name down or their info, contacts are usually people that you'll have their info first. So that may be better for a lead, where this might be a first connection and now you're getting to know them a little bit better. But contacts normally,
For that, is because I want to have permission, because I don't want to be a salesperson, because I'm still going to be in contact with my friends. But I'm not going to I'm not going to send them an email for real estate if they don't want me to, because I respect their boundaries.
let's you and I role play that part then, can we?
bet.
Okay. So we've already had our first initial part of the conversation and we're all the way to that point. Hey, April, just curious. I've got a really cool system at work. It sends out a market snap every month about your home and kind of what's sold around there. Would that be okay if I send it to you each month?
Sure.
Awesome. Right? Just say that's it. But it doesn't have to be like drawn out and, hey, I might throw an event, I might send birthday stuff, I might, if it's a might, then it sounds unorganized and it sounds like we don't know what we're doing. So, and it's fine. We don't exactly, but have a plan. Have a plan of, hey, I'm going to start sending out a newsletter. That sounded great. Like, hey, April, I'm going to start sending out a newsletter. It'll only be once a month. If it's okay, I'd love to include you on this list. And that's the same list I'll use when I'm throwing client events. Sometimes we'll do a free movie night or we do Easter egg hunts, that sort of thing. Is that all right to put you on that list? And then they're likely going to say yes. If they say no, then they may not be
And I'm
the right client, right?
No, like I'm okay with that, because that to me is like, I want to respect your boundaries.
Okay, so say no this time when I ask. Hey, I've got a list I'd love to put you on. I know we've been friends for a while and I send out kind of a monthly newsletter and I use the same list for my client events. Is that okay to have you on this list and invite you to some of these things?
I'd rather not. I already have a real estate agent that I work with. I'm not really interested.
Oh, got you. So you have an agent that you've worked with? Can I ask who it is? I'm just curious.
Sure, her name's Amber.
Amber, okay. What's her last name?
You're gonna push and
Yeah.
ask people?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm just curious if I know her. I've got an Amber at the office and she's fantastic.
Yep, it's Amber Burke.
Is it Amber? Oh my gosh, I know Amber. She's so good. I think you're in good hands with her.
So you push though for the,
I,
find out.
I'm
who
role
your
playing.
friends
Let's keep
are.
role playing.
Your
Let's see how it turns out. Yeah, I like Amber. My gosh, she is such a fantastic agent. I see her at the office almost every week. And I appreciate you letting me know that. So if for any reason Amber were to move out of state or something, something changes for her, would it be okay if I'm your number 2?
Maybe.
Yeah?
You're a hard sell.
I'll tell you what, April, you don't have to commit me to being my number 2. I'm mostly just joking because I think Amber's fantastic. But if we have a little neighborhood event or something, would you want to come to that?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I'll have you on this list. And if you change your mind, that's no big deal. I'll take you right off. But we do some fun things for the kids and remind me how, well, I won't go into that. I don't know your kids and I don't really know your family or if you have kids. So I won't go into that. But
Lots, but
Oh, awesome. Very cool.
I know.
Very cool. Well, I was playing it hopefully more like we know each other and we're already friends, so, yeah.
So you push.
I wouldn't call it pushing, I'd say finding out. Like, what if you go to a listing consultation and you call them back and they say, let's do that. Anybody want to role play a listing consultation that you've been on? Okay, I'll be the agent and you be the lister, you be the person listing, and I'll call and you let me know that you're going with another agent. Hey, is that you, Courtney? Good, how are you? It's Kammon. Just following up with you about our listing appointment. I know you were gonna talk to a couple of other agents. When is it okay if we come get a sign in the yard and get the listing agreement signed? By the way, I would have already had it signed at our appointment, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm glad you called. I was gonna call you later today and let you know that we actually decided to go with one of the other agents that we have.
Oh, no kidding. Who did you end up deciding on?
Ashley Jensen is like really, I've just known her for a while and I know that she knows the area really well. And so, I loved your presentation. I think you're
Thank
awesome,
you.
really great. But we just.
I'm not looking at you because we're on a phone call, but yes. Yeah, well, I tell you what, I don't think you can go wrong with Ashley Jensen. I think she's an incredible person and a great agent, so that's neat. Can I ask you what, just kind of to keep developing, my presentation and what I'm doing with my business, what kind of made the difference? Sounds like you know her and she knows the area. Did you feel like there was a difference between she and I in knowing the area? Was there something else I could have tweaked a little bit to maybe have earned your business?
Well, I just feel like mostly it was the relationship that I have with her and also,
And remind me how you know her.
I've worked with her in the past and she's.
Oh, that's right.
I see her name everywhere in this area. She's on all the signs.
Yeah.
I just felt like she had a good handle on things and I really trust her judgment for this specific part of town. But you know
Well,
what?
she's great, that's for sure, Courtney. I am really curious, so, since you've used Ashley before, and yet this time you decided to interview me as well, what made you want to interview me in this process if you'd already used her before and you kind of understood how she worked?
Question. I think I just wanted another perspective and wanted to see what else is out there.
Gotcha. And what did you think about the new perspective? Anything that you felt like we do different, or is there something that she promised you that I may have forgotten to mention?
I guess I just liked the price that she was talking about and her.
Talking about the price of listing your home? Oh, okay. And what price, did she give you an exact price or did she give you a range?
Gave me a range a little bit higher.
Interesting. Okay. And we'll stop there, but.
That
You said,
all
was it
good.
okay to ask questions or was that pushy? Seriously, how did it feel? You're honest, Sarah. Was it pushy to ask those questions? Mhm.
I felt like you were genuinely concerned, like you showed concern. And I think showing concern is one of the greatest like attributes we can have as humans, is showing concern. Like you were really concerned.
I was concerned that she chose Ashley over me.
I see the difference.
Like you're concerned for her well-being.
Yeah.
You're like,
No, it's true. And I was hoping to portray that.
yeah, and just like really wanted to know by asking a lot of questions. I felt like when people ask a lot of questions like that, they're not like, you weren't offended, like your ego didn't pipe up and go, oh, okay, whatever. You were genuinely like humble about it and you wanted to know for yourself, because then it would give you that feedback that you need. If, she did choose another agent, you would want to know that for yourself. And then you did show like you were concerned
Yeah.
for her and her well-being.
Okay, we'll finish it. We'll finish the role play. Well, Courtney, thanks for sharing that with me. I do really appreciate it. I know that's going to help me in the future. And before I go, I'm just curious, have you already actually signed the listing agreement with Ashley? Or were you just going to call her? Or?
You could send a DocuSign.
Okay, got it. If I could, would it be okay if I stopped by for just a couple minutes? I know you and your husband were kind of talking about this together. Would it be okay if I showed you just a couple more things that I may have forgotten to mention? Okay. Yeah, well, I can. Crumble's just right across the street from you guys. So yeah, actually, I'd be happy to. Why don't I do that before you sign it? Totally fine if you go with Ashley. I totally get it. She really is a good agent, but why don't I just swing by And there are a couple things that I think you need to look at, and I want you to see before you do that, and then you can make a more informed decision. Is that okay? Okay, that's a deal. So, and then of course, I am going to take my listing agreement back over again and try to get her to list with me and say, whatever tagline, whatever script I need to use, and Ashley is great. What's that?
And I don't think that it's wrong to be a little pushy. It's not, you weren't being aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
but a little pushy there. You're pushing.
And I did, right? I got a little bit, when I found out the listing agreement wasn't signed, it's like, okay. Well, how do you feel about me stopping over one more time just to chat and show you guys a couple more things that I did find out? And it wasn't completely closed. What if I said, all right, well, good luck with Ashley. She's great, and left it at that. Is there any chance for me to get the listing there?
Nope.
And do I want the listing or do I not want the listing? And did I offend her by asking her to come back over? Or was I leaving the choice up to her? Hmm? Oh, please do.
Like I told Ashley.
And you could have totally said that in the role play, which would have also been fine. I think it's almost a little bit harder for people to say no when you are treating them with respect and when you're genuinely concerned for them and you're trying to, they could tell in the listing presentation that you had, you were looking out for them and their needs and their goals and all that sort of thing versus your own. So, yeah, and if she had said no to that, I said, well, gosh, thanks again for chatting with me. This is super helpful. And, we could have had a little conversation after or whatever, and I'll keep in touch.
You're giving this deal, I'd
Mhm.
be like, I want to do some investing, and I'm gonna call you. Because I may have already committed to Ashley on this, but you're like, sitting this, like, through, trying to make, it better next time, and the tenacity, like, I want you as my agent.
You guys hear that? Just kidding. No, it's true though, right? I would think the same thing about an agent that seemed to care and followed up versus, one that doesn't. If they didn't follow up, and when people don't follow up with me, I'm always surprised. Salespeople, I'm always like, they're not even going to call me. Like, I'm ready to do business. Like, had some guys that were going to install shutters in our house way back when we got shutters, and I was so surprised. We're going to go with this company and liked the guy a lot, never once called me back. And I was like, oh, it's his deal. I'm not calling him. Like, we'll interview a couple of other companies. So,
Sorry.
yep.
What would you call it? Yeah, sorry.
No, I would ask more questions. And it would be something like, oh, I hear you. You're already committed and just curious. And I think when you come from curiosity, people want to help you understand. So well, okay, that's totally fine, but I'm just curious. What do you mean committed? Well, I told them on the phone. Oh, gotcha. But you haven't signed anything yet. That makes sense. And then we could keep the conversation going, and then I could be curious and ask some more questions about maybe swinging back by. And hey, would it also be okay if before this thing's listed, if I grab a few pictures, would you care if I shared it with some of my folks that, may be interested in buying before you even get it listed? I've got a list of buyers and I would love to send a text out. Your house is beautiful. And then as I'm over there and I have the listing agreement, maybe we get in conversation. I'll ask them again. And if not, they know that, and if they're going to use you, then, and see that you're a bulldog when you get over there. And I'm not going to I guess what I mean is I'm not going to be super aggressive and pushy. It's just not my personality. But I don't mind asking them, because if I never ask them, then, and if I just say, oh, okay, that's fine. Or when she called me back, if Courtney had said, hey, we decided to use the other agent, I could say, oh, all right, and feel bad about it. Okay, thanks, bye. Right? It's a different conversation. And now Courtney's telling me that she would consider using me for her investment properties that she's going to buy. And we stayed in conversation, and I was understanding, and still kind of came across like, hey, I, would still love to work with you, and try to figure out a way if that was possible. Any challenges with what we've talked about? Oh, thanks. It's nice of you. I think if you think about open-ended questions, when you're talking to people, I sometimes mess up and ask yes or no questions, right? That, we ask yes and no questions, it's yes or no, right? And then we're done. That's the answer. But if you ask, well, what makes you feel like something like, what makes you feel like you wanted to go with Ashley? Then you gave me all these reasons and told me that you knew her and had used her before, right? It left it open for conversation. So I would think even if you don't have scripts completely memorized, have an idea of the questions that you want to ask, and then just figure out how to make them open-ended questions so that you're carrying on a two-way conversation and you're not just presenting and telling them all these things that you're going to do for them. And sorry, I know we're way off on where we're supposed to be with this. Well, I'm glad, and that's why I don't mind going off their script, because I would rather do what's helpful and what's going to lead to more business for you guys. I practice, yeah, I do some practice in scripts. That bowl class I've taken, I think, 3 times. And part of doing it is you have to practice some scripts. And you'll realize that when you have some scripts to learn, that you're going to go through them and be like, oh, I can't say it like that. That's not my personality. But it doesn't matter because we don't know what we're doing yet, right? We just started. So the scripts are probably going to be better than what you have. And all you have to do is internalize them. And once you've memorized them, internalized them, you've made them your own, then you can present them in a way that is more your personality, or maybe with your verbiage or however you want to say it. But the scripts that they have are really, really good. So I would say learn them and internalize them, try to memorize them as best you can. And then when a challenge comes up and you can chat about it and at least have something that you've thought of, right? We practice ahead of time, so it's not practice when I get to the listing appointment. I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. You've already, like I don't want to seem unsure and I don't want to go with, without solutions for people. Sorry, Dave, you're going to say something?
Well, that's what I think the only difference between your guys' role play is that you practiced a lot more than she has.
And April truthfully did great.
Great.
She did.
No, yeah, no.
I know you're not, but I'm being truthful. I thought you did great. I thought it was awesome. Did family?
Learn as you go. Like I go going, I'm gonna mess up, it's okay. This is my first call, it's okay. This is my first open house, it's okay. Knowing it's not gonna be perfect. Like that's just my attitude.
Can I tell you one of the biggest mistakes I think all new agents make? Not all, like one of the biggest that I hope you guys can avoid. And that would be to try to get everything perfect before you start doing the work. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is try to sit and get it perfect and understand it, Erica. No, truthfully, there was a study. Have you guys ever read, oh my gosh, Atomic Habits? Such a good book. And if you remember in Atomic Habits, there's a photography class. And this professor says, okay, this group, I want this half of the room. You guys are going to go take as many pictures as you can. You can just go play around with it, take all the pictures that you can. And then I'm going to grade you on the sum of your photos. You guys, you're going to take one perfect picture. That's all I'm going to grade you on is one picture. So make it as perfect as you can. What do you think happened? These guys spent all their time practicing and shooting and getting different shots and adjusting the lighting and different angles. And these guys spent all their time theorizing and thinking about what would be the perfect shot and not really practicing using the camera. And so at the end, these guys had, some mediocre pictures in the very beginning, and then they just had some incredible shots by the end. Looked like, just professional photographers, and he was super, super impressed with their work. And who hasn't read it? What do you think about this side? You know where I'm going with this and where the story's going. What do you think happened? They produced one very mediocre photo at best, right? Because they spent all their time thinking about it and what am I going to do and how am I going to do it right? Have a plan, yeah. Have some scripts, sure. But my gosh, make those calls, talk to people. Doesn't matter if you fall on your face, I've fallen on my face plenty of times.
And maybe we've already kind of answered it. Kind of goes off of Sarah's question or what she said. So I feel like in this day and age, people don't call normally unless it's a little more of an urgent case. So like I'll text my friends all day long. If I'm calling, it's because I'm like, hey, we're meeting. Where are you? It's like a little more urgent. So but do you feel like it's, what I'm saying? Like, it's just kind of harder to call when it's just, hey, I'm just small talking. Instead, I just want to small talk instead of just texting.
So you're asking, is text okay?
Yeah,
or
or just
better
how,
than
like,
phone call?
phone calls just seem like more of a casual thing.
Text feels like that.
Text right now feels more. Yeah, and I don't usually answer the phone when my friends call. So they're thinking, I'll call you back when I have a minute to talk.
So what do you guys think? This is an important topic. Let's figure it out now. What do you think?
I'm just a couple months ahead of them. That like, I'll have people say, hey, I'm busy, but I can text. So then I will text them then, because that's obviously their preferred mode of communication. Like, I think you have to also, and maybe I'm wrong, because I'm brand new, but it seems like you do need to communicate with those who want to, how they want to communicate. Somebody, I think it was Courtney, had talked about even doing Marco Polo. If that's how they prefer it, that's another way to do it. Oh, Stephanie had. Like, do you do Marco Polo? So
And a lot of people don't. Some people do, but
that's a great way to also do it because it's a face, it's like, do you know what it is? It's like a texting with a.
it records your video and it sends it to them.
it's
and they can play the
they
video.
don't do it, they'll just record a little video back. So it's just like a video texting.
So I am curious, what you think. When you're texting somebody, how easy is it to convey emotion? What kind of emotion do they feel?
Yeah.
Right, and I do. They used to say I had some. I took these negotiation expert courses that were, and he was like, "Don't put emojis. It's not professional." And that was, not that long ago. And now it's like, put emojis. You want to show people feeling that you're excited. You want to convey enthusiasm. You want to be authentic. And if you're excited to talk to them, let them know. So how easy is it for them to know if you're being authentic in a text message, or if you're being critical, or
Judging them.
if you're being judgmental? Like,
Emotion
you may just be making a comment. Well, right, and you're probably not, but could it be taken that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could, right? If they can't hear your voice and they can't hear your intonation, like that's tricky,
People know you.
right? These contacts that you're calling, it's people that know you, like you, and trust you, hopefully. And if they just know you and like you, you're going to earn their trust. So, and if I call them and we have a conversation, they can hear that I actually care about them, right? Not just hey, how are things going, right? And I may be saying like, hey, how are things going? Man, I hope you're doing well. I heard that, your son was in the hospital, broke his arm falling off the trampoline. That was awful. That we can't, that would be tricky to get real emotion in text. I can say those things
For sure.
and it'll read, heard your son was in the hospital. Sorry about that, right? It'll read how it reads as a text.
I guess it's just different every relationship. So some are okay.
Mm-hmm.
But like, for me, like my friends, like we're texting and then we're going to lunch. So the
And-
lunch would be the time to
Mm-hmm.
say all of that.
Well, what's the purpose usually for a text?
Because you're either getting.
You were saying you were planning lunch.
Oh, that we're setting it up.
You're setting it up. You're setting up an appointment. There's lunch. You're conveying some kind of information. It's not normally that two-way vibe of a connection, right? So, and that's what we're trying to create. So you guys are familiar with Moore Club, right? The Masters of Real Estate. So, and I think you have to do, I don't know what this. So I don't know what the standard is. I think it's 4 million that you have to have done in sales during a calendar year to be in it for the next year. And then of course the next year you have to do it again in order to stay in it. Yeah, it sold over 4 million. Yep. Yep. So in order to do that, you've got to continually do it to stay on the wall. Otherwise your picture comes off the wall. But I think as you guys get going, you said, holy crap, you'll realize that that's super doable. I had a lender that I'm so grateful he was marketing to me when I was a brand new agent. We sat down and we were talking and he was asking me about my goals, and I was still with Highway Patrol at the time. And he said, so what's your goal? And I was talking to him, I said, I want to make 200,000, and And he said, "And how hard do you think that's going to be on a scale of 1 to 10?" And I said, "I don't know, 7, 8." He said, he shook his head and I was like, "Okay, what is it then?" He said, "Maybe at most like a 4, but really probably more like a 3." I was like, "Really?" So it changed my perspective. I was like, "Oh, it's not that hard to make $200,000, right?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I started thinking about it a little bit different. And he was making tons of money. And so anyway, I think I think it's going to be easier than you think to hit that 4 million mark as you get going and get clients and get business. But the reason I brought the More Club up is the other day they split us into groups, and we started out with 8 to 10 million, and then at the same table we also had like 10 to 20 million or whatever. They grouped them all in one group, and then it went down based on your volume last year. And so I was again like one of the lowest producers at this table over here, and I thought it was so interesting. And when I've got people that are doing more business than me, I don't talk as much. I close my mouth and I listen, and I'm like, okay, I want to, I'll throw out an opinion or if they ask me a question. But we were all at this table, and I thought it was so interesting. Lane Thompson brought it up, and we were talking about this guy in St. George that was just doing 300 some transactions, like ridiculous, almost doubled his business last year when some other agents were going down. And he said, the dude calls. That's it. He calls people like 4 hours a day. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's what our model is. Like, make lots of phone calls and contacts. And then he's worked on it and gotten systems to get people out to help show and close on homes. But he closes on hundreds of homes. And so Lane said, this conversation kind of got going. And they were talking about, we're all asking each other, what do you feel like is working best right now? We're just brainstorming as a mastermind. And so they all started talking about calls. And everybody agreed, even Becca, who does not like to call, she mostly texts, which is totally fine, might be your personality. But everybody agreed, like calls were like the number one thing to get business. The connection, I don't know, forming that relationship. And you've got to be in a relationship with somebody to get their business, right? They've got to know you, like you, trust you, and you have to be top of mind. And making those calls, even if they're just once a quarter, are probably the best way to do it, unless you're going to sit down and go to lunch, and then you can text.
Well, and I don't have a problem talking with people, but I just want to be authentic.
That's our society though, right? We've moved towards texting and message me and everything's quick and fast and all that. And yet you'll be a little bit different. You'll be able to call and reach out. And even if they don't answer right away, you can say, oh, hey, just calling to catch up, wondering how you're doing, or whatever text you want to shoot out, but it's going to be about them and wondering how they are or checking in on you or whatever. And then they're probably going to answer the next time, or they may call you back. Oh, hey, I wasn't expecting you to call. And then you got a conversation and you can chat for a few minutes, and then you'll be on to your next appointment. Yeah, please. To check in on them and see how things are going and ask them about their family and just to connect. It's my purpose. The best time for that was COVID, and I didn't take advantage as much as I should have, because that was such a great time. It still is, but that was such a great time to say, my gosh, how are you guys doing? Do you guys need toilet paper? I mean, there are all kinds of things you can talk about during COVID, right? Yeah, isn't this crazy? And well, I just wanted to check in on you guys, and I was thinking about you, wanted to see if there was anything that you need. You may see and it may be about something different if I can see on Facebook, like, oh my gosh, Susie's dad just died. Wasn't that long ago, and she is a rock star agent and a good friend. So I stopped, I grabbed a drink, went by her house, and just to check on her. We had a great conversation and just sat down. She's obviously not going to be my client, but I care about her. So my purpose calling people is normally to check in on them and see how things are going, or if they've got a kid that plays on the team or whatever, then maybe a little different conversation to see how so-and-so is doing and how are they holding up and how's everything. Because if you think about it, I'm not calling them every week. How often am I calling these people? Once a quarter. And 2 or 3 of those times might just be to invite an event. This time I messed up. I didn't give myself enough time for the movie event. I wanted to do it in conjunction with a lender. And then she threw out a thing just before I was going to ask her and advertise Dune. And I was like, oh man, I was going to do that one. And so then I created my own thing and I only gave myself a couple weeks. It's tomorrow. So I had to like mass text everybody. I had to do like just a text, a general text and send it out. And the text is hopefully sincere enough, but, and then some of them, like the more recent ones, I've clicked and put their name instead of hey exclamation point and then give all the info, hey, and then I put their name in and then send it. So sometimes, yeah, sometimes I do a lot of texts and I've sent probably a couple hundred texts or something. Right, it's better than nothing, and yet it's not the best. But they got the information for the event, a whole bunch of them have signed up. I wish I'd made more calls for it because I know a lot more people would come. I would have filled the theater a little bit easier had I called. Probably the first half of them would have been able to go had I just, and the first time I sent just an email. And for me, my own email went in my promotions box on Gmail. So I really don't know how many of them got it. So then I went back and followed up, and then it's even a shorter time frame. But anyway, a lot of mine are to invite them to something, right? Because I'm not just calling. If I'm going to talk real estate, I'm going to provide value. And you can definitely make that call and talk to them and get that info. And then if they ask you about work, oh my gosh, it's great. I've been so surprised how many people don't know that they can take the benefit of their interest rate to the next home. And so that's been kind of cool to teach people and show them how they can do that. Wait a second, what? Well, yeah, you can take the benefit of your interest rate to the next home. And just a lot of people don't know that, or I think more of them would be moving right now. And then if they ask more about it, then, oh yeah, well, it's just, it's seller financing and this is how it's done. And I've done several of these now. They taught it at our brokerage and then I went to some classes and I'd say 3 out of my last 5 listings have done seller financing. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. And anyway, and so I can get into that conversation, right? You've got something of value to offer them. It doesn't always have to just be, how are you doing? But most of mine, like for this one, it's the movie event. In summertime, it's going to be Keller Splash. And then I'm going to have a pie day in November that I do. Every November I give away free pies and I go buy them in, loads of Costco because they're $6 or $7 or something. I used to give them the choice between apple and pumpkin, and that was part of the script. I'd send the email, just let me know, and I'd have a Google Doc form. But now it's just pumpkin. That's it. The apple pie went up to like $15. I was like, nope, I'm gonna do pumpkin this year, 14, whatever it was. So yeah, I'm totally fine with it. You know why? Because I care about them, and I'm not just calling for my business. If I call for my business, I won't make the calls. If I call just because, my gosh, this deal fell through, I've got to get something today, that's a tougher call for me. If I do, then I have a script for it. And that script is something like, hey, Courtney, thanks for taking my call. Hey, we're doing kind of a challenge here at work, and we're seeing how many listings we can get by the end of the month. Who's the next person you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Right? And then they'll think about it and maybe not have anybody. Well, it might be somebody you live by. It might be, it might be somebody that your kids go to school with. I don't know who's next on your mind that's maybe thinking of buying or selling. And we'll have that conversation. I'll just ask them. But I don't go in. I personally, you got to fit your personality, right? I'm a little bit like Sarah. Like I don't want to go in unauthentic or a salesperson. So either I am calling with a legit purpose, and that could be real estate because we're having a competition in my brokerage, and I have a goal to hit, 10 by the end of this month, 10 referrals, or whatever it is. And people genuinely want to help you. Believe it or not, they want you to succeed. It's fun to see somebody not fun to see them go through a hard time, but it's fun to see them bounce back and succeed, whatever hard time that is. And everybody's gone through something. But, yeah, I don't know. Kind of getting off topic, sorry.
Yeah, it's better.
When you have generated a lead. Sorry, just kidding. It really is hard to follow script because I would rather just talk about things and role play them. And so what 2 columns can you not change on this and what one can you change as we get back to this?
Can't change the first one.
You cannot change these 2. You've got to have at least 4 calls a year. You have to. And so this video or this event doesn't count for my call. So guess who will be calling all those people after? I will be calling them. You can't change any of this. Actually, so Keller Williams says you can't change that. I think you could also do a market snap. They're easy to do. If you're not in the habit of writing newsletters yet, Chat GPT may be a really good source, right? Type it in like, hey, I'm in real estate in Utah. Can you give me 4 fun facts that I can share with people in my newsletter? And then it'll spit out a list of things. How easy is that? People had to really think and do research and come up with stuff before. Now you can type it into AI and have it spit stuff out. And it might be have too much fluff, and I can say, can you take some of the fluff out of this? I've done it to write up my listing. I hate writing up my own listing descriptions. I always talk about, natural light flooding through the windows and all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's sounding the same. So I'll put some general stuff in, and then I'll tell Chat GPT about it. And can you write a good listing description that will help this home sell? So anyway, this stuff you can change easily, right? Like I said, if you're into pickleball or whatever, you may be doing something different than somebody that's doing a movie event. You may not be a moviegoer. You may be doing an Easter egg hunt because it's that time of the year. Whatever it is, you can adapt these things to what you want to do. Sorry?
They were the ones interested in my information. It wasn't me pushing it.
Yeah.
To this day, I still haven't even thought to put them in my deck. Like, that's just what I wasn't thinking, like, oh, I've got their, and they, that they have, I'm sure they're successful women because they are successful. And never once did I think, but I'm pushing myself. I'm getting out of this little box that I put myself in to be like, oh, I'm in real estate, and that's all I needed.
So what's the way to connect with them now that they're already met? So they're actually contacts. You exchanged information. They gave it to you in person, so they wanted you to have it. Would you agree?
Yeah, she like texted me this long thing yesterday. She's like, let's do this once a week. I said we should genuinely want that.
Man, that's
So,
awesome.
just having that relationship is more important to me than like selling.
So now do you need to go to them and say, hey, when are you going to sell your house? You don't need to, right? You've got a relationship with them. You think that once a week hiking with them and them asking you about business and you can share, my gosh, had an awesome class today, had this incredible instructor, and you just sharing like what goes on in your life and you know what, I'm joking. I really am probably one of the worst instructors, so I'm sorry about today. No, like just talking to them genuinely and authentically. You don't have to turn to them and ask for business. And if they ask you about it, yeah, I'm hoping to help X amount of families before the end of the year. So would it be okay, do you think, that if they're asking you about your work, yeah, it's going good. I'm just hoping to help, X amount of families before the end of the year. So let me know when you come across somebody that's looking to buy or sell. That'd be awesome. Do you think it would be offensive to them or like pushy if they're asking you about it?
I mean, I don't know. This is gonna be hard. I have a really big goal. You guys all know it.
I don't. What is it?
13 transactions before the end was
But
my goal.
listen how Candace just said that. He
Yeah.
didn't say 13 transactions, he said help 13 families by the end of the year. Maybe if you just reframe it.
Yeah, you're-
Like, you're helping people. This isn't for you, it's for other people too. It's not just for you.
Yeah.
What family member are you close with? Do you have a family member you're close with or a friend that you're super close with? Who would you say you're the closest with? I'm asking you. You don't have to say their name, but you can say a friend or you can say my mom or whatever. Do you have somebody you're the closest with? Are they family or friend? Okay. Can I ask who it is, or is that too personal?
No. I have a lot of really close friends, and then with a sister and a mom.
Who are you closest with?
Closest out of all these people? Probably.
If something happened right now as emergency, who would you call?
My friend Ashley or Michelle.
Okay, well, let's say Ashley, since you said her name first, her name came to mind first. What if Ashley is going to sell her place and you already know that the person that might get the listing would not do as good a job as you would not take care of Ashley, is transactional, and you know that, and just needs to sell. And she will talk Ashley into lowering her price and making less money because she's a transactional agent. Can you think of a way you would talk to Ashley, even though you had to sell her, even though she's one of your best friends, how would you phrase that to her? What would you say if you're going to talk to her and Ashley's like, hey, I'd like to use you, also talk to this other agent. Now it's hard for you, right? Because you don't want to be too pushy. This is one of your best friends, somebody you confide in. Maybe you feel bad that they're even considering another agent, but her dad or somebody told her that was a smart thing to do. So,
Well, ironically, Ashley is a real estate agent of like 25 years. And
oh, awesome.
She's kind of a bad egg in that department, so
Very cool.
yeah, I wouldn't.
Well, so I guess my point is, think of how you would talk to somebody that you love and care about when you're looking, even with these folks that you're chatting with, you obviously care about them. Otherwise, you wouldn't be worried about, being too pushy or ruining the relationship, which you won't. But I think if you ask in a caring way or you're chatting with them and say, yeah, hoping to help 13 families before the end of the year. I'm on my way, but yeah, just I can use any help that you got. So if you think of somebody, let me know. You could say it really casually in passing. That way you're not being pushy. But if you don't say it, guess what? Somebody else will help them, and guess what? They don't know. Some people
Sorry.
go ahead, April.
Is that sometimes, like in our office, they can't represent both the buyer and the seller. And if it's your really good friend and she's a baddie, she might often have times where there's somebody who wants to buy and sell. And if you just say, I would love it even if you had any referrals. And you pay her a referral fee, you work with somebody that you're good friends with and you trust. I mean, that can even bring multiple business.
Sorry, did you say Ashley, her good buddy? Yeah. Hey, honestly, that's really an easy way to say it. I love that. Say, hey, if you get one of those clients you don't want to work with, I'm still new and learning. I'd love to help you out. Or hey, if and maybe even go to her and say, hey, I've got a deal. I'd love to team up with you on something and learn how you're doing so well. Like, not trying to make it specifically about Ashley. And we have to move on. Sorry, I haven't done a very good job of keeping track of time. So all that to say, you've got to have a value proposition when you talk to people. You've got to, with people that are leads that don't know you, like you, trust you yet, you want to convert them over to over to your contacts, right? You want them to be these people that you're in conversation with. So you've got to have some sort of value proposition. The reason you have their contact info, remember, is they are already interested or been referred to you for real estate purposes. So they want to know more about it. So you can share little market snaps, have a conversation, have whatever personal communication you can, preferably on the phone. You can share all the statistics and data. So here are the potential lead sources, and I'm not going to go on script. And some really good questions. Not, are you thinking about buying and selling, which is what? A yes or no question. No. Yes. It's, why are you thinking about buying or selling? And I personally like, what's making you decide to buy or sell? Tell me more is really good. Once they get in and they're chatting with you, you'll notice that as you go on appointments, people will get to the next level. It'll start out as really surface level and, well, we want a bigger house. Oh, tell me more about that. Well, our kids are kind of crammed up now. They haven't been getting along. They're doing better, but we also have a dog. We're just kind of all in each other's space. Oh, got it. And what will that do for you if you guys have a bigger house? Well, I think we can be more organized and I won't be so stressed all the time. And oh, cool. And tell me more about that. What would that do for you? And well, and then really as you get to different levels, well, my mom has cancer. Like, you'd be surprised, like all the things that come up and why they're stressed and why there are things going on. And it'll almost seem like you may feel like you're asking too many questions. And it's that point that you know that you're asking the right questions, or you're finally asking enough because you do care about them and they will share more and more. If you aren't sure where to go from there, forget what question to ask, move on. But if they'll keep going and you can ask them, oh yeah, that's super interesting. Tell me more about that. Or, oh really? And husband and wife aren't always on the same page, or partners aren't always on the same page. So you can turn and how do you feel about that? What do you think about what she just said? And you're this consultant, not a salesperson. You are a salesperson, but you are a consultant and somebody that's going to put their needs first. So those are some good questions that I would write down and make sure to ask, and ask them over and over and over with in any other open-ended questions that you can come up with. Let's finish with this because we're not going to be able to move on to the work section. My bad, guys. We do need to do practice and role play and all that good stuff. We did some of that, right? Yes. What are some ahas? Remember these, we always come up with these because if not, it won't be as firm in your memory. You may forget things that you intended to do or put into practice. What are some ahas you guys had with lead follow-up?
Don't try to get everything perfect. Just go action.
You speak truth, brother. Don't get everything perfect. Get into action. Write those cards, make those calls, send those texts. And don't send those texts instead of making those calls. Make those calls first. What else?
That we're here to just help, well, this is how I wrote it.
Okay, I'd love to hear how you took it.
I wrote help solve others' problems. And when you share that story about the guy who, did 330 hours of research on how to, get this place sold, like, I really believe that's our job, is to help people solve their problems.
Mhm.
And like, we're kind of like a consultant mediator that, like, we're all here together. Why not just help each other? And that's just, we can help people solve their problems. That's like amazing.
Yeah, I agree. It's an incredible thing to help somebody get through something tough or solve a problem. And believe me, some people's houses are problems that they need to get rid of. We've got a neighbor that's selling and they're moving to Georgia, and he's got to get it done in a time frame. And anyway, what else? Any other ahas before we finish up?
I just think that it's just so important to do these touches because people forget, people don't remember like I don't remember what my friends do all the time, and so they don't remember that you're in real estate. And so if you don't do these things, then you're not going to be on the front of their mind when they do go to buy or sell.
I think that's a great point, by the way. And I can tell you, some of the folks that I've met in real estate that have helped buy and sell houses for have become such close friends. And they would not be had I not followed up and gotten into conversation and gotten into a relationship and realized like, hey, I can help these guys better than anybody. I need to help these guys. So it's been a fun experience to be able to feel that way and feel like, oh man, I genuinely love most of the people I work with. If not, then I may send them to you as a referral. Anything else? Any questions that you guys have or that weren't answered for you? Yes, Courtney.
Question, but I just want to probably have 100 questions things just slightly different, like when April's talking about her database, and you kind of rephrase that a little and said, I'd like to include you on this list. Like, it's an opportunity. Instead of you're doing me a favor, I'm going to offer
Right.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're bringing value, right?
Yeah, the number of families you want to help instead of the number of deals you want to close.
Right. Very different.
So I guess after maybe reframe, and when we hear like we're in sales, for some of us that's like do I want to be in sales? But I have the same way Sarah just expressed that like people have a house problem that we can help with. And I love how you say, like, I don't want someone else out there trying to help them because they're not going to care as much as I do or give as much as I'll give. And I want to be the one to help them fix their problem, right?
Yep.
So, like, it's about connection, it's about helping, and it's about, like, using those skills to do something. In addition to what we're also interested in, which is making a career or building wealth or helping our family.
Yeah, and you can make a lot of money in real estate. It's an awesome career. Yeah. Help as many people get what they want, and then you can get what you want. Zig Ziglar or somebody said that. I can't remember.
Yeah, you can have anything you want.
You can have anything you want. You just
help everybody get what they want.
have to help enough people get what they want. Yep, that's right.
I really like your comment, except for the sales part, because everybody's in sales. I don't care what you do.
It's true. We are, and that's why I said we are in sales. I get it. And yet we're in the people business, aren't we?
But everybody's in sales, even if they're not in sales. I mean, you're, what you choose to do is, you're basically selling yourself in any career path. I feel like.
Not always, though. You don't always have to sell yourself. I think that's why I'm
In
struggling.
in preschool, you had to sell yourself. You had to take care of the kids. You had to do the work. That's
Like
selling
who I
yourself.
was selling, I didn't have to go out and do the marketing or anything, but yeah, I mean, it's just hard.
Well, and could it be that maybe we're looking at the definition of a salesperson differently?
Right.
Could it be that you're thinking like
I'm
sales
helpful.
means you're helpful and your true authentic self, you're gonna do the best for people, you're a fiduciary, and maybe we're thinking of on the other side of that is commission breath and somebody that just wants what they want because they want a new car or whatever. That's different, right? we're salespeople, but we are consultants and we care about people and we want to do the very best that we can. And by the way, we didn't go through we're not going to do the live calls because I went too far over, but yeah, we'll skip that part. What's that?
No one ever.
Well, guess what? We should. So today for after class, you guys really should go make some calls, especially
Yeah.
with leads that you haven't connected with. It'd be a great time to connect with them.